We've been talking about President Trump's choice of fear as a way to win tomorrow, mainly of migrants hundreds of miles from the nearest U.S. border. Also fear of what he says Democrats would do if they take control of Congress and the impact on the economy. Here's what he said on a conference call with supporters earlier today.
It's all fragile. Everything I told you about, it can be undone and changed by the Democrats if they get in. You see how they've behaved. You see what's happening with them. They've really become radicalized.
Well, let's talk about that with former Democratic presidential candidate, Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont. Senator Sanders, thanks for being with us. Have Democrats become radicalized?
Well, I think what Democrats are increasingly trying to do is represent the middle class and working families and not the billionaire class or the 1%. When you have a president who attempted with the Republican leadership to throw 32 million Americans off the health care that they have, we stood up and we fought back. And when you have a president who gave $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%, and then Anderson came back with a budget that would cut Medicaid by $1 trillion, Medicare by $500 billion, the Social Security Disability Fund by $72 billion over a 10-year period. Yeah, we stood up, we fought back.
But the president
and if that is considered to be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, the president points to a booming economy, although he doesn't point to it very often. He's talking about other things. But his administration will point to a booming economy, to record low unemployment among, large swaths of the population, among many different groups.
Well, that's true. And there's also very low unemployment in Germany, very low unemployment in Japan. Canada has the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years, as does the United Kingdom. The world, most of the major countries of the world are rebounding from the terrible depression or recession from 2008 when Wall Street crashed. But here is the other reality, which Trump and his friends don't talk about, and that is that 30 million people in America do not have any health insurance, and even more are underinsured, that we got tens of millions of workers in this country trying to get by on $9, $10, $11 an hour. And these guys, not only do they not want to raise the minimum wage, you have Larry Kudlow talking about how the minimum wage itself is a bad idea. You have these guys not even recognizing the reality of climate change and working hand in glove with the fossil fuel industry to put more carbon into the atmosphere when we have to transform our energy system. So I think, having said all of that, what this election is really about is whether we feel comfortable, Anderson, having a president who is a pathological liar, who lies every day about every imaginable thing, and whether we as Americans are comfortable about having a president who is trying to divide us up based on the color of our skin or the country that we came from or our sexual orientation or our religion. And ultimately, I don't think the American people want us to move in that direction.
If Democrats take the House, do you want to see them go for impeachment? Because, there are plenty of Democrats who say, look, that's not a wise move.
This is what I want Democrats to do. If I have anything to say about it, this is what I am going to push. I want to raise that minimum wage today from a starvation minimum wage of $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour, so working people can live with dignity. I want to lower the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs. I want us moving forward toward Medicare for all, and the first phase of that concept is to lower the eligibility age for Medicare from 65 to 55. And I want us to begin moving boldly to address the global crisis of climate change. Those are some of the things that I want to see us do immediately.
All right, Senator Sanders, I appreciate your time. Ohio's Republican Governor John Kasich is hardly on the same page as a Vermont progressive. He, too, finds himself at odds with President Trump at times and Trumpism writ large. He joins us now. Governor, thanks for being with us. The president is very welcome. Very clearly hoping that fear of this caravan in these final days will mobilize the base, drive voters to the polls. I know you're not a fan of that approach. Is it effective, however?
Well, I think the fear is not going to overcome, the fact that people are concerned about what they're hearing. Anderson, in a nutshell, Look, I think where we are today is we have a polarization of the parties. You have people on the left and you have people on the right. And there's a big ocean of people in the middle, and frankly, many of them are numb. If a president had these numbers, economic gains that we've seen, and he was a uniter, his approval rating would be, sky high. But when you engage in division, then you get people very uptight, and that's why you've seen the party shrink. That's why you've seen concern with college-educated women, or all women, frankly, who are really wondering which party they ought to belong to. And so I believe that over time, people are going to say, I've kind of had enough of this. And what I hope we're going to see are the people in the country begin to drive change from where they are to the top. In other words, do things in your community, create a synergy that energizes others, and then send a message to the politicians. We saw it with the civil rights movement, where the changes came from the bottom up. We saw it with the ending of the Vietnam War, where the protests came from the bottom up to get leaders to do things. I hope that's what we're going to demand, because we're worried about America, not just what party wins, but America and how people can feel more confident in the future. Anderson, the last thing is, I saw a number the other day. It said 70% of the people, 69% of the people in this country are worried about the future of this nation. Okay, we don't have to live there. We can get together and we can solve problems, but we just have to stop demonizing one another. It can work.
I mean, obviously, you're a Republican. You want your party to do well tomorrow. Would any part of you, though, be happy to see Democrats take back the House, if for no other reason than to serve as a check on the president, who you at times, in terms of tone and rhetoric, often disagree with?
Anderson, I think that as Americans, we should be voting for the person. I mean, I don't support Republicans who are dividers. I'm more than willing to stand up and support very courageous Republicans who are uniters. I've endorsed Mike DeWine in Ohio for governor. I mean, but people who are going to try to divide us in either party are people that, in my opinion, should get off the stage, or in fact should not get support that they think that they can get. So to me, it's about what we do to help America rather than, checking in with the Republican club or the Democratic club. We're at a crucial stage in this country. We have lots of problems out there. They can be addressed, but they have to be addressed by both parties. If the Democrats should win the House, the interesting question is, can they work with Trump, President Trump? Can they moderate his behavior? Can we begin to solve some of these very serious problems? Things like the division between the rich and the poor, the issue of our environment, what we're going to do to fix the immigration problem, how we can have a policy that just doesn't try to solve everything at the border, but can reach into those countries and those communities where these troubles emanate, which causes people to leave. There's a lot that we can do together. In the meantime, you and I and all these people that watch, start doing things where you live and drive the change from where you live to the top. It will work.
Governor Kasich, we certainly see a lot of turnout. Maybe it's the beginning of that. Thanks very much for being with us. Coming up,